People imagine corporate success as the result of hard work, talent, intelligence, and emotional maturity. They picture leaders who inspire, who elevate others, who take responsibility when things go wrong. But the truth is more unsettling. The higher you climb in a large organization, the more you enter an environment shaped by power games, resource battles, strategic alliances, and subtle acts of manipulation. At that level, empathy becomes a liability, fear becomes a weakness, and charm becomes a currency. This is why some of the people who rise the fastest in the corporate world are the ones who feel the least, the very traits that define psychopath's superficial charm. Bold risk-taking, emotional coldness, and the ability to manipulate without guilt fit neatly into the demands of high-stakes business. Not because the system wants evil people, but because the system rewards behaviors that psychopaths are naturally better at than everyone else. A sociopath or psychopath does not enter a company thinking about teamwork or long-term contribution. They enter like a hunter. They scan for hierarchy, power clusters, weak points, ambitious rivals, and emotionally vulnerable people who can be used as stepping stones. They map the social structure the way a military strategist maps terrain. They understand who influences decisions, who controls resources, and who is naive enough to trust too quickly. Most employees enter a workplace wanting stability, belonging, security, and fair treatment. A person with psychopathic traits enters wanting leverage and control. This difference alone creates an advantage. When you do not feel guilt, you can take actions that others avoid. When you do not feel fear, you can take risks that others hesitate to take. When you do not feel empathy, you can fire people, lie to people, intimidate people, and flatter people without the emotional cost. And because these actions often look bold or decisive, they are misread as leadership. Corporate boards and hiring committees are not trained to detect psychopathy. They are trained to detect confidence. They are trained to detect charisma. They are trained to detect composure. Psychopaths display all three. Their emotional shallowness means they rarely show anxiety. Their lack of fear means they stay calm under pressure. Their practiced charm makes them seem socially smooth. Their manipulative tendencies make them say exactly what the interviewer wants to hear. And their drive for status makes them present a perfect version of themselves. In short meetings, this looks impressive. In long careers, this is dangerous. Picture a company during a crisis. Money is tight, competitors are rising, investors are angry. Most people freeze or retreat into caution because they care about the consequences of a wrong decision. But the executive with psychopathic traits steps forward. He makes bold promises. He projects certainty. He pushes aggressive strategies. He fires staff with no hesitation. He talks about streamlining and efficiency, but what he really wants is control. To the board, he looks fearless. To the employees, he looks ruthless. To himself, he looks like a predator among prey. His lack of emotional attachment helps him survive the crisis. Not because he is wise, but because he does not fear failure or regret. His confidence gets rewarded. His recklessness gets interpreted as vision, and his lack of empathy gets mistaken for tough decision-making. This is the central problem. The traits that destroy relationships in normal life become assets in competitive environments. A psychopath in everyday society is obvious. They cheat, lie, charm, steal, and harm. The damage is visible. But a psychopath in a corporate structure blends in. Their harm becomes abstract. They manipulate colleagues. They take credit for others' work. They sabotage rivals with subtle actions. They push risky decisions that benefit them but hurt the company. They promise results they cannot deliver. They rise because the system mistakes the absence of fear for courage. A typical employee cares about cooperation. A psychopath cares about advantage. A typical employee feels guilt when they cause harm. A psychopath feels nothing. A typical employee avoids unnecessary conflict. A psychopath causes conflict when it creates opportunities. This difference reshapes entire corporate cultures. When a person with psychopathic traits gains influence, they create an environment where competition replaces cooperation. People become tools, not teammates. Trust becomes weakness. Loyalty becomes disposable. The culture adapts to fit the leader's mentality. The organization starts to reward aggression because aggression is what the leader respects. Soon the workplace becomes a battlefield of insecurity, where the most manipulative rise and the most empathetic retreat. It is important to understand that not all psychopaths are violent. In fact, many never commit a crime. Their traits operate like a psychological engine that seeks stimulation, control, and achievement at any cost. They enjoy dominating conversations. They enjoy taking risks. They enjoy bending rules. They enjoy watching others react with fear or confusion. They enjoy outsmarting people who assume good intentions. They enjoy the thrill of winning in environments where the stakes are high. The corporate world offers exactly this mixture of risk, competition, reward, and visibility. It is not surprising that they migrate toward positions where power is concentrated. Imagine an ambitious team of managers. Most of them work hard, build relationships, and slowly rise by proving reliability. The psychopath rises faster. He takes credit for the team's success. He shifts blame for failures. He charms the managers above him. He undermines the managers beside him. He gaslights the subordinates below him. He volunteers for high-risk projects and delivers charismatic presentations filled with half-truths. He makes himself look irreplaceable. And because his emotional reactions are shallow, he stays calm even when the pressure should break him. His calmness becomes a signal of competence. When promotions are decided, people often assume the best storyteller is the best leader. They assume the most confident person is the most capable. They assume the most assertive speaker is the most intelligent. These assumptions open the door for psychopaths to climb. They do not climb because they are strategic geniuses. They climb because they lack the emotional friction that slows down everyone else. Psychopathy is not only about a lack of empathy, it is also about a different relationship to fear. Most people experience fear as a warning. Psychopaths experience fear differently. Their fear response is weaker. Their bodies do not flood with anxiety under stress. Their minds do not freeze. This makes them look brave. It makes them look comfortable during negotiations, confrontations, and high-stakes pitches. A board sees this composure and mistakes it for leadership. They assume the candidate is calm because he is competent. They do not realize he is calm because he is emotionally detached. There is also the issue of manipulation. Psychopaths learn early in life that words can shape reality if delivered with confidence. They mirror people's emotions. They imitate empathy. They flatter those with power. They study personalities and insert themselves into weaknesses. If a manager craves approval, the psychopath provides it. If a director fears losing control, the psychopath reassures him with loyalty. If a CEO wants boldness, the psychopath gives her boldness. They build influence by giving people the illusion of connection. This illusion is thin, but it is often enough. In environments where political skill matters more than moral integrity, the psychopath becomes the natural apex predator. The analytical part becomes clear when you compare motivations. A normal leader wants the organization to succeed. A psychopath wants themselves to succeed, even if the organization burns. They will cut departments to inflate short-term numbers, harming long-term stability while increasing their own reputation. They will overpromise to investors, knowing the fallout will come after they leave. They will push for mergers that look good on paper but destroy employee livelihoods. They will exploit every opportunity to make themselves indispensable until they secure their next move. Their decisions are not strategic for the company. They are strategic for themselves. The corporate world helps them because it rewards outcomes, not intentions. If a leader fires hundreds of employees but increases profits, he is viewed as effective. If he lies to secure a deal but the deal succeeds, he is seen as bold. If he intimidates rivals and comes out on top, he is celebrated as competitive. The moral cost is invisible because corporations translate human harm into numbers. When people become resources, it becomes easy for someone with no empathy to make decisions with no guilt. A psychopath does not see faces, they see positions. They see opportunities, they see obstacles, they see assets to move and liabilities to remove. This is why psychopaths are overrepresented at the top. Not because every CEO is a monster, but because the system itself rewards traits that psychopaths possess in extreme form. They are not successful because they are brilliant. They are successful because the system is blind to emotional morality and hypersensitive to confidence, ambition, and results. The traits that make them dangerous in normal life become strategic advantages in environments built on competition, secrecy, and hierarchy. If you're finding this breakdown valuable and you want more analytical storytelling about the hidden machinery behind human behavior and power, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the Fictionist